Howdy do, fellow emos, and welcome back for another installment of My Chemical Makeup, where I'm doing a look for every My Chemical Romance song ever. Or at least I'm gonna try to. Last episode, I did my most labor-intensive look yet and set a church on fire for Vampires Will Never Hurt You. And in this episode, I'll be tackling the infamously cursed Track 4, Drowning Lessons. And here is my concept sketch. This song has quite a bit of wedding imagery in it, so my mind immediately went to a drowned bride. So I'll be going for drowning victim SFX makeup along with ruined bridal makeup and some fake strangulation marks on my neck. A much simpler look than last time, but a much needed break and breath of fresh air after doing such a crazy look last episode. Oh my god! Without further ado, let's get to it. As usual, we gotta make our accessories first, so I'm gonna be busting out my construction paper, wire, and my trusty hot glue gun to make the flower crown. I took my 17 gauge wire and wrapped it around my head until it fit comfortably with enough excess wire to tie it together, then cut it off the coil. I used my grandpa's needle nose pliers and wrapped the ends of the wire around each other to close the ring. However, this isn't gonna be enough to keep it closed because if I leave it like this, it's gonna slide around. That and the ends of the wire would just poke my head, so I'm gonna fully secure it by slathering both ends in hot glue until they're completely encased in it. Once the glue cools down, set the crown aside for now so we can work on our roses. Take a sheet of light blue construction paper and fold it in half hamburger style. Then unfold it and use the crease you made as a guide to cut it in half. Some will notice that this is the same method I used to make the flower crown for my Rumbling Rose Keyblade makeup look. However, I'm doing things a little differently this time. Because as you can see, the roses on that flower crown are absolutely massive, and I need the roses for this flower crown to be smaller. So I'm gonna take one of the halves of the paper I cut and fold it in half, also hamburger style, and cut it in half again. This effectively cuts the size of your roses, guess what? In half. For the rest, proceed as normal. Fold that half into a triangle, cut off the excess, then fold that triangle in half twice and cut a curved edge like you're making a paper snowflake. Now grab a pencil and draw a fancy bracket shape along that curved edge and cut it out. Unfold the paper and now you got your first flower. Repeat this process 2 more times so you got 3 flowers total. Take your scissors and use the fold lines on the flowers to cut slices of petals from each flower. A single petal from one flower, a slice consisting of 2 petals from the second, and a slice made of 3 petals from the third flower. Save these slices because we'll need them later. Next, grab the flower with only 1 petal missing and draw a line of hot glue along the cut edge and bring the flower together, placing the opposite petal over the top. Once the glue cools down enough, take a small paintbrush or a similar type object and use it to curve the ends of each petal. Repeat this whole process for the other 2 flowers. You got that done? Okay, Cool, now it's time to use our petal slices, so I hope you saved them. You're actually going to repeat the process one more time, but just for the 3 petal slice. For the second petal slice, you're going to curl both sides of it and then glue the edges together. Oh, and don't forget to curl the edges of these 3 pieces too. And for the last lone petal, you're gonna curl the entire thing from one side to the other and roll it up. Then glue it in place. And this will give you the center of your rose. And now we're gonna glue these 3 pieces together in size ascending order. Take the center of your rose, add some hot glue around the bottom, and insert it into the second largest piece. You might have to hold it in place until the glue sets so it doesn't fall to one side. Now glue that into the last remaining piece and you have the inner half of your rose. And we're gonna do the same thing with our other 3 big pieces, again in size ascending order. Once you got that assembled, glob on some hot glue to the bottom of the inner half and put it inside the larger half. I also recommend snipping the pointed tip off the inner half before gluing it, just so it doesn't stick out from the bottom half as much. There. Isn't she beautiful? One last thing and she's done. You're gonna take the scissors and cut off all the pointed parts. And maneuver the scissors to make the petals uneven and make them look more natural and realistic. Why add the points at all if you were just gonna cut them off, you might ask? Well, I did try to make the roses without the points, but that made the petals impossible to curl, assembled or not, without tearing the paper. So the points are there to help curl the petals and lower the chances of the paper tearing. Okay, now our first rose is done, and here's a little side-by-side comparison of the different rose styles. Now all you gotta do is repeat this process until you have enough flowers to completely cover your flower crown base. For me, that ended up being 11 roses total, including the one I just made. Alright, bringing back the crown, I got out some brown felt and cut several strips of it to glue onto the crown base to make it more comfortable on my head. I drew a line of glue on a section of the strip and proceeded to wrap it around the crown until I ran out of glue, then repeated it until I ran out of the strip. I also burned my poor thumb a little several times in the process. Don't be like me, guys. Get some of those silicone thimbles to protect your fingers. Just because you stop feeling the burns after a while doesn't mean you're immune to hot glue gun burns. You are not slowly becoming Daenerys Targaryen. That's called accumulating nerve damage in your fingertips. Don't do that. Also, I went with brown felt because these roses are supposed to be dead and it blends in with my hair color better. Once I had the crown base fully covered, I took some more brown felt and drew out a circle roughly almost the same size as the rose and cut out enough of these circles for all of my roses. These will give the roses something more to stick onto and increase comfort. I took one of those circles and glued it onto the inside of the crown, then added a glob of hot glue on the outside in the center of the circle and added my rose on top. You will have to hold the rose in place until the glue cools off. I also added more glue around the base of the flower once that cooled off for extra security. Better to be safe than sorry. Now mark where you want your next rose to be after seeing where you need it placed and glue on your next felt circle and rose accordingly. Repeat all of this until your crown is completely covered. Ah, what a lovely crown. However, she's not done yet. We still need to weather the roses to make them look more dead than alive. For that, I'm using a combo of dark gray and darker sky blue eyeshadow with a small fluffy brush to really paint these roses black and blue. It took a minute to build up the layers, but once it started showing up, the effect and the difference was very noticeable. The camera just isn't doing it justice. Also, be careful when handling the roses from this point forward because the eyeshadow will come off on your hands. I did try soaking them in water and immediately hitting them with a hairdryer to see if that did anything to make them look more shriveled. It did absolutely nothing. So, eyeshadow it is. Okay, now she's done. And she looks absolutely lovely. And with that, we can now start on the makeup. First, take a wedge makeup sponge and pick apart the flat end. Make sure you get the corners because we don't want any harsh or sharp edges. And you're gonna do this for not just one sponge, not two, but 3 more sponges after this one. And they should all end up looking a little something like this. I set those aside for later and once again got out my Mehron Paradise face paint in white and my big face paint brush. We're going for another uneven coat of white just to make my skin look extra pale cause, you know, corpse. But instead of doing what I did last time, I dabbed on spots of the paint and used a wet makeup sponge to blend it into my face with dabbing motions to make it look blotchy. I worked in sections to avoid the paint spots drying before I could blend it. Also, I used this video tutorial as a base for this look and to learn how to do this kind of SFX makeup, but I'm using completely different products and adding my own stuff. But I'm linking it in the description anyway cause credit where credit is due, and it's a really good, very easy to follow tutorial for beginners. Make sure you get the area under your eyes and paint your eyelids too. Once you're done with your face, you're gonna add that face paint all over your neck using the same method. But of course this part depends on what kind of outfit you're wearing with this look. If what you're wearing exposes more than just your neck, extend that face paint out towards your collarbone or past it. I would have put it on my ears too, but I tend to avoid it because 1, I don't like that feeling, and 2, my ears are normally covered up by my hair anyway, even if I'm wearing a wig, so yeah, there's basically no point, so I didn't. Once all your face paint is fully dried down, set the whole thing with Mehron Color Set Powder, and remember to brush off any excess. Now to really sell the pale corpse look, I'll be using Makeup a Murder's Cause of Death liquid eyeshadow in the shade Cold Blood. I put 3 small dots of it on both my top and bottom lip each and used another dry sponge to blend it. This stuff is waterproof, so it also makes a good liquid lipstick and worked way better than the face paint did on my lips. And that is to say, the face paint didn't work at all on my lips. Next, I'm getting out one of my eyeshadow singles, Freezing Fog from DandyLions, which is a very light gray, and using one of the sponges I stippled to add that on my temples and the sides of my face to hollow out my cheeks. If you're not sure how to do that, make a fish face and see where your cheeks start to cave in. That's where you stipple on the gray. Now you're gonna blend out the edges to make it look less harsh. I just used my fingers and was very light-handed with it. I then contoured my nose using the same gray, adding it all the way down the sides of my nose with a detail brush first, then a small fluffy brush to blend it out. You ever think about how human noses are weird? We don't got bones in there. So when we become skeletons, there's just a hole where our nose is supposed to be. The rest is just straight cartilage. Like, there's no bones in there. But it feels like we should have bones in there. Weird. Anyway, still using that same gray, I put it all over my under eyes for those dark circles. Despite getting eternal beauty sleep, being dead, unfortunately, does nothing for your designer eye bags. Tragic. I also added a little bit of it on my lips. Just a little though, not too much. And speaking of which, we're gonna be bringing back our old friend and VIP of this series, the Violets by Juvia's Place, using a combination of the dark matte purple shade and the matte lavender on my lips as well. Adding it to the innermost part of my lips, then using my small fluffy brush again to blend it outwards. I also put it on the corners of my mouth, dragging it out to make a small line, and then adding a little more lavender on top to blend it out so it's not too harsh. We're trying to avoid any harsh lines whatsoever on this look wherever we can. I put that lavender on my Cupid's bow too, but only a little bit. Be very careful because it is so easy to overdo this and then it just looks weird and no amount of blending is gonna make it look less weird. Using that same purple and lavender combo, I went over my eye circles and nose contour to further hollow out those areas and emphasize the shadows. I know it doesn't look like I did much, but trust me, the effect is very apparent in real life. The camera just isn't doing it justice. Now you're gonna use another one of your stippling sponges and use just the dark purple right over top of our cheek and temple contour to hollow those out too. And don't forget to finger blend those edges with a very light hand again. For my eyelids, I'll be using this light blue eyeshadow called Lakeview, also from DandyLions, and putting that all over my eyelid with a fluffy brush. Don't worry if it looks dull or patchy or too light, because we're going for the illusion of ruined bridal makeup. Like most of it washed away after the bride drowned, leaving only remnants of it or a stain. And we're going to continue with that illusion by using matte black eyeshadow from Makeup a Murder's Lost Signal eyeshadow palette instead of eyeliner all the way around my eyes. And I'm leaving it patchy and dull to give the appearance of fading and ruined eyeliner. Now we're gonna make this eyeliner run by using a couple of detail brushes and more of the eyeshadow to make dried tear streaks. While I'm here, a thought occurred to me while working on this look. The album cover for Bullets is made of the same colors as a bruise, as in the same colors that I use to make my SFX bruise makeup. You got that very warm, dingy yellow, a dark purple, and a really dark hot pink. Very fitting for Bullets, you know? Speaking of bruises, moving on to the finishing touch, the strangulation marks around my neck. If any of you have seen my Honey This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us makeup look, I'm using the exact same method I used for the bruises on that look. I first got out my Juvia's Place Nubian Glow palette and used another one of my stippling sponges to add the matte yellow on my neck all over the area where I want my bruise. I used my own hand as reference for the bruise placement. Then I got out more of that dark purple shade from earlier and stippled that right on top in the middle of the yellow. That's gonna be our impact spot. And right on top in the center of the purple, I'm gonna add this really dark mulberry pink color from the Berries palette, also by Juvia's. This is why you need so many of these stippling sponges. I went over the whole thing again with a little more of the yellow to soften out any harsh edges. I also tried adding a bit of blue for more dimension, but I didn't like it, so I covered it up with more of the pink and purple. And now for the final reveal. And cue the glamour shots. I look so flipping cool, oh my gosh! And this was my first attempt at drowning makeup too. I am so proud of how it came out. And this was another one of those looks that I took so many pictures of, it took me a solid hour to narrow down which ones I liked the most. And here's a close-up of the eye. I'm really proud of how the tear streaks came out. We got another look in the bag. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know Drowning Lessons is a fan favorite, so I hope I did your favorite song justice. By the time this video goes up, the pics of this look will be up on my Instagram for you to admire at your leisure. And if you're on the indie web part of the internet, or the indie website revolution if you will, you can also find them on a place called Afterlife, an indie website social media platform for alternative subcultures. You got goth, emo, punk, scene, metalhead, and more. And the design of the website is made to look like the older social media platforms of the internet. You know, back when the internet still had the magic of exploration and everything wasn't forcefully funneled into the big three, aka Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but I refuse to call it X just to spite the muskrat. They got a news section for upcoming events and things going on within the subculture. You got a calendar for IRL events organized by fellow people within the subculture or concerts or what have you. And when you make your profile on there, it is insanely customizable. The best way I can describe it is basically the diet version of having your own personal website. And the reason I say diet is because you don't have to go through the insanely laborious task of coding the thing yourself from scratch. In fact, you don't have to code anything at all. So if you don't even know how to code in the first place, like me, guess what? That's not a problem. Now, of course, I'm just giving you guys the Cliff Notes version of the whole thing, but I could definitely make an entire video on Afterlife and exploring it, so if that's something you guys want, let me know. I'll probably do it anyway because I do what I want, but it would be nice to know if anybody else would be into it as well. However, if you'd like to explore it for yourself, the link to the site is in the description, or just look up www.xxafterlife.com. And just so you guys know, no, I am not sponsored by Afterlife in any way, shape, or form. I just really love the site, and I've been on there since October of 2025, and it's been an absolutely fantastic time. I actually found out about it from my friend Felix, aka Gothrock Spock, who is the singer and guitarist of a band called Her Majesty, who you should totally check out, by the way. I will warn you though that to make an account on there, you need an invite code, but don't worry, I'm gonna give you guys the same invite code I was given by Felix, which is Her Majesty in all caps. And with that, I leave you. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up with my antics, and remember, art is the weapon, your imagination is the ammunition, and I will see you guys next time.